And joining us now from our Washington bureau is Grady Summers, Vice President of Mandiant, the company that prepared the report detailing Chinese computer attacks on organisations around the world. Now, Mr Summers is also the head of the information security at Ernst & Young in the past. Thanks for being there, Mr Summers.
Good to be here, Tony. Thank you.
Now, you've evidently been tracking these Chinese hackers over 6 years. What's the scale of their operations and what was it they were stealing?
Well, the scale of operations is massive. This is a professional operation. Like you said, we've been tracking them for 6 years. We've seen them firsthand crack into 141 different organizations around the world and steal hundreds of terabytes of data. That's millions, literally millions of documents. It's a real professional outfit.
Yeah, I mean, one of these companies had 6.5 terabytes of data stolen over a 10-month period. But some of these attacks, I think the average length of an attack was 365 days. But some of them went for more than 4 years.
It's remarkable, and you know, the gentleman who was in your opening talked about the fact that it's important to be able to detect them, that any sophisticated attacker can breach a network if they try hard enough. And it's true, it's just about a year was the average length of time that we saw these attackers on victim networks. As you can imagine, that gives them plenty of time to move around in the network, to find the exact data that they've been tasked to find, and to exfiltrate it without the company even realizing it. Our research shows the vast majority of times companies don't even realize they've been breached until perhaps they're fortunate enough to be notified by a third party, by law enforcement, or a government intelligence group.
Now, until now, your company has had a non-disclosure policy. Why did you decide to go public with all this information, this intelligence in this report? Because after all, you do tip your hand to the hackers at the same time.
You're right. It was a really tough decision. I can tell you we deliberated this extensively. There's pros and cons to doing it. Like you said, we tip our hand. We know that this will drive the attackers underground. It will cause them to shift their techniques and potentially make them more difficult to find in the future. At the same time, we knew how much organizations would benefit from the information we released. In addition to naming this group, PLA Unit 61398, we provided 3,000 technical indicators. These are indicators that organizations and governments can take immediately, plug them right into their detection infrastructure, and hopefully start to find these guys. So it was good to know that by releasing this report, we'd not only shed a lot of light on this topic, but we'd also help organizations hopefully find these guys and kick them out of their networks.
Yeah, let's go into the evidence that this is a Chinese Army Unit 61398, because basically your reasoning here is deductive. You don't have absolute proof of it. You're deducing this is the case by the body of intelligence that you've put together. Isn't that so?
That's true. I mean, without actually going into that building or having a PLA source tell us firsthand, the best argument we can put together is the deductive one. That said, we think that there's a preponderance of evidence that all points back to this one particular building and a particular neighborhood in Shanghai. The information we collected over 6 years shows us everything from the IP addresses that the attackers were using to log into their own attack infrastructure. So we were watching the infrastructure they use to launch attacks into these organizations. And when you see thousands of logins over a 6-year period, all coming from the same address space, add to that the fact that we know this is a PLA building, that much is clear. The PLA logo is on the building. The fact that they've been hiring everything from English language linguists to computer technicians to those with computer penetration skill sets, it presents a pretty strong case.
It does seem to, but naturally the Chinese Defence Ministry denies these allegations, and they say you actually lack technical proof. So they're saying there isn't, there may be intelligence, but there's no actual proof.
Sure. I mean, they've clearly got a well-honed propaganda machine, and what propaganda machines typically do is dismiss these types of things out of hand without addressing the actual facts. We're really proud of the facts we've put forward. We've given the actual IP addresses that these attacks come from. We've given those 3,000 indicators. We've named 42 pieces of malware. Some of the malware even has the names of their hackers embedded in the code, and then we've tied those hackers directly back to the ones who have registered the domains that these attacks are coming from. So when you link all that together, we think the facts speak for themselves. And look, we never expected a hand-wringing confession from the Chinese. And the fact is we have no political axe to grind here. We're computer investigators. We love to find evil on networks and help eradicate it. At the end of the day, we don't feel like we need the Chinese to acknowledge this in order to make the case any better than it is made today.
Sure, but we should at least address what the Chinese are arguing. They say that everyone knows the use of usurped IP addresses happens on an almost daily basis. And it is a bit of a puzzle, isn't it? I mean, if these are the most sophisticated hackers in the world operating out of Shanghai, how were you able to find them in the first place?
Sure. I would like to address the fact that IP addresses are often misappropriated to do bad things, and that's true. It's very easy for a sophisticated hacker to compromise a particular computer, a particular IP address. That's the internet address where you can find the computer, and to launch attacks out of that IP address. The fact is, though, that's easy to do on a one-off basis. Doing that for 6 years consistently against the same set of computers that do go back to Shanghai, it's hard to believe that could happen for 6 years without the government and the PLA being very aware that this was emanating from their buildings. So we certainly acknowledge that does happen and crime happens that way, but not over a prolonged period of time without somebody noticing it.
Yeah, how big do you think the operation is? I mean, you mentioned computer operators, linguists, open source researchers, malware authors, industry experts, etc., etc. Do we know actually how many people, how many individuals will be employed at this task of hacking into overseas companies and governments?
Sure. Well, that's deductive as well, but as we piece it together, we know that there are at least 1,000 computers in their attack infrastructure, and we do know the size of the building. We don't know that the entire building is dedicated to that, but given that there are 1,000 servers in the infrastructure, we know that it's going to require a serious operation. You're going to need logistics people and people at the receiving dock to take computers and people to maintain those computers. So we estimate several hundreds, if not 1,000 people in the operation. And of course, this is just one of multiple attack groups that we know coming out of China.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that's true. In fact, yes, I mean, in fact, you've identified 4, 2 of them in this Pudong new area in Shanghai, but 2 other ones, you don't say where they're actually based. I mean, who are the 4? Are they all, do you believe, related to the Chinese military?
Well, see, that's where we're careful. We only make attribution, we only tie it back to a group when we're really sure of the evidence. So you're right, we do track other groups, but we're not going to just casually say, hey, they're associated with the PLA unless we've got the evidence to back it up. So overall, Mandiant tracks about 75 different unique threat groups. A great number of those are based in China, and when we feel like we've got the evidence to attribute it back to a particular actor like the PLA, that's when we'll share the information in a report like this. So we'd like to do this more frequently. It takes a great deal of effort to put out a report like this, but Mandiant hopes to share more information with the industry in the future.
Okay, one of the most remarkable things you've identified, I think you alluded to it earlier, is that you've identified actual hackers, and they've even got names embedded in their data: Ugly Gorilla, right. Dota, Super Hard. What did you learn about these 3 individuals at least?
Well, it's remarkable. With social media today, everybody leaves such a trail on the internet, and we were able to really just follow that thread over a period of years and see these folks like Ugly Gorilla and Super Hard and Dota pop up on various message boards. So we note in the report, for example, that we saw Ugly Gorilla actually in a forum several years ago asking a PLA commander who was doing an online chat, asking him about the PLA's cyber capabilities. And it's interesting to see sort of he'll make that first appearance on the internet, and then we can follow his trail throughout social media and other records online. As we note in the report, one of those personas is actually a Harry Potter fan, from what we can deduce, and actually named some of his accounts after Harry Potter characters. So there's a vast richness of information about all of us today on the social web, these hackers included.
As well as these Shanghai-based personnel, you claim this group maintains an extensive infrastructure of computer systems all around the world. Does that mean they have cyber spies in different countries who are actually operating these computer systems?
Not necessarily. What we mean by that is that they've compromised a network of computers all around the world. Sometimes they can actually use that same infrastructure for years because the victims don't always realize that they've been compromised. We really think about 2 classes of victims in any incident like this. There are those who actually have their intellectual property being targeted, and there are those who are merely conduits through which these attacks pass. So there are many victims who never know they're victims. Their computers, their servers are being used all around the world for the Chinese to route their attacks through. And that's an important point. When we tied this back to the PLA in that one neighborhood in Shanghai, we're not just looking at our victims and where they're being attacked from. We're actually going upstream. We're looking at that attack infrastructure that they maintain all around the world, and we're seeing where the Chinese are logging into to get to that infrastructure.
Again, the report says the industries target match industries which the Chinese have identified as being strategic in their plans, for example, their 12-year plan. Now, Australia, as we know, has huge trade with China in the minerals exports, in particular energy exports. These are strategic goods. Would you expect, or do you know, if Australian energy companies and mining companies have been hacked in this way because they carry very trade-sensitive information in their secret files?
Sure. Well, you make an interesting point. When we track the Chinese, unlike other groups, we actually have a roadmap to what information they'll be interested in because they do publish their strategic 5-year plans. And you're right, mining and energy and minerals are very much of interest to China. So yes, the mining and the energy industries in Australia are a target, just like they are around the world. We do work with a number of Australian companies, and I can tell you the profile of an Australian victim is no different from that anywhere else in the world. Mining and energy, very much a target.
Well, we have two of the biggest mining companies in the world operating extensively in Australia and other places, of course, but Rio Tinto, BHP, Billiton, are they among the companies that have been attacked?
Well, we would never name a victim. We think that's probably counterproductive, and of course we would never name a client that Mandiant works with. But I can certainly say that Australian companies are no different than any other companies, and if you're in an industry that's targeted, you can be sure that the Chinese will have an interest in you.
What about the Australian government? Do you know whether Australian government departments, the Department of Foreign Affairs, which again carries sensitive information, the Defence Department, which carries intelligence that the Americans have given us, I mean, have they been targeted?
I can tell you I've been really impressed with the Australian government entities we've worked with. They're very aware of this threat. They're cognizant of it. And I would say in general, government entities know how to defend themselves better than the private sector. This particular group we watched didn't go after government in a big way. They're much more interested in intellectual property at commercial entities.
And finally, you say in the report that you're acutely aware of the risk that disclosing all this poses for you and that you expect reprisals from the Chinese. Do you know what kind of reprisals may come? Do you have any idea?
We just know that we've poked a hornet's nest with this one, and so we're vigilant. Mandiant's always vigilant, as every company should be. But I will say that we're keeping an extra close eye on things over the last few days and over the weeks to come.
I mean, does that mean are you afraid physically of a physical threat, or do you think you'd be attacked in a cyber sense?
Yeah, certainly. No, more so in a cyber sense. You know, after we've put out as much information as we have here, discrediting us would be one way. You know, and kind of exposing our own flaws would be one way that somebody might want to seek retribution. So, you know, the good news is in all of this, the Chinese, and particularly this group, are interested in stealing intellectual property. They're not interested in raising their profile. They're not interested in doing damage. So we're very vigilant, and so far, so good.
Well, just one final question. I mean, is the American government, they obviously know about the intelligence you've put together, are they considering this as an attack on their national interest? It's almost a warlike attack?
They are. I mean, the U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder actually had a press conference yesterday where he said, you know, he does view this as an attack on the economic interests of the U.S. Because the United States has been kind of a hotbed for innovation recently, and we invest so much in research and development. This really is an attack against the United States, and I'd say all Western economic interests. So I've been pleased by the steps that the U.S. government has taken recently to encourage more information sharing and to better protect intellectual property, and we look forward to seeing a lot more of that to come.
Grady Summers, very interesting to talk to you. Thanks very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Tony.